The recruits on the training field froze as the commander's voice exploded across the sound.
"I'm a Navy SEAL. You'll do what I say,"
he roared, stepping forward with the swagger of a man who believed rank made him untouchable. Before anyone could react, he slapped the female soldier standing in front of him, the crack echoing through the silent base. Her head jerked to the side, but she didn't fall, she didn't even blink. Instead, she slowly turned her gaze toward him. Calm, steady, terrifyingly controlled. 5 seconds later, before the commander or any recruit could understand what was happening, she dismantled him with a series of movements so smooth and precise that the entire platoon forgot to breathe. And as he hit the ground, gasping in shock, the truth slipped from her lips like a quiet storm's. "Commander, I'm a Navy SEAL." Lena Walker had never been the type to break under pressure. Raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs, Lena learned early that life wasn't about being handed opportunities, it was about fighting for them. From the age of 12, she trained in martial arts at a local community center, often the only girl in the room, always the quietest, always the most focused. By 16, she could outmatch every boy in her school, but she didn't brag. She didn't need to. Her talent spoke for itself. Joining the Navy had been her childhood dream, but her journey wasn't smooth. She was underestimated, pushed aside, and overlooked simply because she didn't fit the stereotype of a soldier. Small, calm, soft-spoken, commanders assumed she wouldn't last a week. But she trained harder than everyone. She stayed late long after others left. She ran in the cold mornings until her lungs burned, swam in icy water until her arms were numb, and memorized every tactical manual as if her life depended on it. Nobody knew she was handpicked for a classified SEAL training program 2 years earlier, one so secret even the base commanders weren't informed. She passed every test with top scores, and though she earned the Trident, she operated under deep cover for special missions. Her identity remained hidden from most of the Navy. By design, only a handful of high-ranking officers knew her real status. When she requested to join the standard drill unit for a month to train new recruits and assess field readiness, the commanding officer approved. But her presence irritated Commander Douglas Hart the moment he saw her. He was a man used to control, used to fear, used to respect being handed to him rather than earned. Seeing a young woman in his unit triggered something fragile in his ego. "You think you belong here," he muttered the first day. She simply nodded, offering a polite smile. But he didn't smile back. As days passed, Lena noticed his temper, how he shouted at recruits unnecessarily, humiliated them in front of others, and punished anyone who questioned his faulty instructions. She corrected him gently once, a tactical mistake in formation drill, and his face turned red with fury. From that moment on, she became his target. He made her do extra laps, extra push-ups, extra drills, and she accepted everything silently, not because she was weak, but because she wasn't here to fight him. She was here to observe. But the breaking point came during an intense afternoon drill. He yelled at her for a mistake she didn't make, stepping close enough that she could smell the anger on his breath, and then, drunk with authority, he raised his hand and struck her across the face. The recruits gasped, silence swallowed the field. Lena's cheek stung, but her mind remained still. She looked at him, not with anger but with pity. The kind of pity that frightened him before he understood why. 5 seconds. That was all she allowed. Then she moved, controlled, efficient, impossibly skilled. She stepped aside as he lunged at her, redirected his momentum, swept his legs, pinned his arm, and disarmed the knife at his waist before he even realized he had grabbed it. She placed it on the ground beside his head as he lay flat, stunned, breathless, unable to rise. She stepped back, giving him space. "Commander," she said quietly, "with respect, you struck a Navy SEAL." The recruits stared at her in disbelief. Commander Hart blinked up at her like a man waking from a nightmare. But the real shock was still to come. From the edge of the field, Master Chief Donovan, the highest-ranking enlisted SEAL on base, began to clap slowly. "About time someone shut him up," he muttered. The entire platoon exhaled for the first time in minutes. The fallout began immediately. Commander Hart was escorted to disciplinary review pending investigation of assault and abuse of authority. But Lena wasn't interested in revenge. She requested that the incident be used as a lesson, not as destruction. The recruits, still shaken, approached her one by one. Some apologized for not intervening. Some thanked her for standing up for them. Others simply stared at her like she was something legendary, a myth they never expected to meet in real life. But Lena didn't want glory, she wanted change. Over the next few days, she led drills with a very different energy. Patient, supportive, firm when needed, but never cruel. She showed the recruits how discipline wasn't built on intimidation, but on respect. She taught them how strength wasn't loud, it was consistent. She taught them how leadership wasn't about fear, it was about trust. Her lessons spread through the barracks like wildfire. She stayed late after every training session to help those who struggled. She encouraged the ones who feared they weren't good enough. She reminded them that every great soldier began as someone who doubted themselves. Slowly, the unit grew stronger, not because they feared punishment, but because they believed in themselves, and because they believed in her. At the end of the month, Base Command held a formal assembly. Lena stood quietly among the recruits, blending in, not expecting anything. But Master Chief Donovan called her to the front. He looked at the crowd and said, "Strength is more than muscle. Leadership is more than rank. And courage is more than silence. This soldier showed us all what it means to stand up not for yourself, but for the entire unit." Lena stood there humble, surprised, and then the recruits, the same recruits who once doubted her, began to applaud, not because she beat the commander, but because she lifted them. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the base and the wind carried the scent of salt and steel, Lena walked along the training field alone. She thought of her mother, of long nights practicing kicks in a dusty community center, of every time she was told she couldn't do something. And she smiled, because she hadn't destroyed the commander. She had destroyed the idea that strength came from domination. She replaced it with something far more powerful, a message strong enough for every viewer to carry long after the story ended. True strength isn't proven when you strike back. It's proven when you rise, protect, and transform the world around you. And in that silent moment, standing beneath the fading daylight, Lena Walker, Navy SEAL, warrior leader, knew she had done exactly that.